You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Moline, the co-author of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors, How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I'll be sitting down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing.
Have you ever been introduced to a concept or learned something that you know will definitively change your future? Definitively, meaning decisively and with authority, conclusively. This is how I feel about the information that today's guest is going to provide for us. And I feel that it can definitively change your roofing business in a major way. And I know that those are very strong words, but I'm telling you, please pay attention on this one. Listen as many times as you need, rewind. Well, I guess that dates me a little bit, rewinding, right? Take notes, to quote my guest, you should be as good at business as you are at your craft. He has 20 plus years in the industry, owning and operating multiple construction businesses. He's a nationally recognized speaker. He is the author of multiple books, one being Profit First for Contractors, which is Amazon's #1 hot new release in finance. Shawn Van Dyke, welcome. Thanks for being a guest on the Roofing Success Podcast. And can you tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me on the show. I guess if we go all the way back to my college days, I graduated from the University of Tennessee and got an undergraduate degree in civil engineering. Thought that that's what I wanted to do. So I went out into the world as a civil engineer, did that for several years. And then while I was working as an engineer, was attending school and got my master's degree in structural engineering. And just about the time I was finishing up my thesis for my master's in structural engineering, I decided that I didn't want to be an engineer anymore because I realized I could read a set of plans, but I didn't know how to build anything. So I like to say that I made the choice and I got into construction, but around that time I also got laid off from my job as an engineer. So the choice wasn't really mine, but was able to go into commercial construction, worked as a project manager there for several years. And then one thing led to another. I ended up working as a construction manager for a real estate developer. That put me on the road quite a bit, building large commercial projects, typical big box retails and outlots and shops. That was great until had a couple of kids, and then my wife was like, "Awesome, you're doing a great job, but your kids might need you to be around a little bit more," because I was traveling all over the United States building those things. So I started my first business, which was a construction management and real estate consulting firm. Did that for a few years, and then 2008 hit, and banks weren't letting developers have any more money anymore. And so the commercial real estate and development dried up, and I made a shift and started a remodeling company. So I was a general contractor. I did that for a few years, and then actually got brought on board to a trim and millwork company. So my trim sub that I was using had a young guy owned that, and his business was blowing up in the high-end finished trim and millwork area here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And so he brought me on as COO. And basically, this is really where, as I describe in my book, The Craftsman Cycle, this is probably where I really started to figure out the way out of that cycle, because he was an excellent tradesman, knew everything there was to know about his craft, but was a horrible business owner. He admitted that. That's why he brought me on. And we were sitting down at lunch one day, and he said, "I want you to run my business." And I said, "Okay, the only way that I'll do that is if you let me run the business and get out of the way. You go out in the field," which is what he wanted to do, to go out and train. And we were sitting there at lunch. He said, "Deal." And he literally pulled out a manila folder stuffed with a bunch of papers and receipts, slid it across the table and said, "Here's the entire business. It's yours. I'm going out into the field. So did that for about 4 years as the COO of a trim and millwork company. We started off with about 6 guys, and in about a year and a half, we got up to about 22 guys out in the field. And a lot of the systems that I teach my clients now, I had developed through the progression of being an engineer to being a real estate developer to a contractor, and then being an executive at that construction company. And didn't know any better. And that's what I started teaching my clients now. And so that's kind of a little bit about my background, about where I've been. I had the tools on for a while, and then I realized, man, this is not a way to make money for me, because when you think you're a carpenter and then you start working around professional carpenters, you realize really quickly that you do not have the production skills that they had. But I can make more money for a company with a spreadsheet and with a schedule than I can with my tools. So I happily put the tools down and have been running construction businesses pretty much ever since then.
That's great, man. And that definitely leads into, there's a lot of contractors struggle with that, right? The business side of the contracting is always a struggle. And in listening to your book, the Profit First for Contractors book, you really lay out a plan as to how to really get that business in order. And can you explain a little bit about the Profit First for Contractors system and kind of, outline how that works?
Yeah. So in the Profit First for Contractors system, I didn't invent the system. My business mentor, Mike McAllowitz, wrote the book Profit First. And when I came across that book, I had been doing construction business consulting for a little while. And when I read the Profit First book, I said, this is exactly how I teach my clients, construction business owners, how to view their money. It needs to be written a little bit differently, specifically for the construction industry.
For sure.
And so that's where, I don't even know if that came up with the idea, but I contacted Mike, and I was going through his certification program to be what they call a certified Profit First professional. So I could teach this method with the Profit First branding. And in a conversation with Mike, I said, hey, this is great information. In fact, it's going to serve the construction industry in a huge way. But there are some things that I would change about the book. And I told Mike, I said, hey, you should write a book for contractors. And if you do, you should change it in this way. And Mike told me, he goes, well, Shawn, why don't you write the book? And I thought, oh, is that how you get to write a book? You just have the author tell you to write another version. So fast forward a couple of weeks later, and we had the book deal in place. And then I started working writing Profit First for Contractors. So that's kind of how it came to be. But here's the system overall. And I'm trying not to bore your listeners with a whole bunch of numbers, but there is a thing that every single business owner, especially construction business owners, do when they need to find out how much money they have in their business. And they're told by people with letters after their names, like letters like CPA and NBA and even CFO, like this is how you run the finances of your business, right? You print off your profit and loss statement, you do an analysis of your cost of goods sold and your expenses, and then down there at the bottom, that will show your net profit. But if you've borrowed any money, or you have any investors, or you own any equipment that goes into the worth of the company, well, that information is over on the balance sheet. And right there, you've already lost people, because no one goes and turns to their CPA, their MBA, their CFO, or anybody else to find out how much money they have in their business. They don't look at the financial reports. They do what every single human being does when we want to know, do we have any money? We go to the bank account.
The bank account. Yep.
And when we see a number in the bank account, a couple of different reactions happen. We either go, oh, phew, I've got enough money. I can make payroll. I can pay those invoices. I can survive another day. Or we look at the bank account and we say, oh crap, I don't have any money, and I still have payroll and vendors to pay. And so we go out and we do some things to generate money, meaning maybe we go threaten to break some kneecaps and get some of those old invoices coming in, or we go sell some more work and we get deposits. And that's part of the problem, is that we're reacting to the balance in the bank account. And so what we want to do, and what Profit First for Contractors does, is it leverages that bad behavior and changes it into good behavior. See, checking your bank account is a bad habit, because when we have money, then we spend it. When we don't have money, then we stress out, we freak out, and we make some bad decisions that get some short-term money coming in. But that behavior is what we know. When we look at the bank account, that tells the real story. The profit and loss statement doesn't, the balance sheet doesn't. And when we talk to a CPA or a bookkeeper, they know nothing about what it takes to generate a profit in a construction business, but they're very good at determining our tax liability. So we can't get information there about how much money we have. So we turn to the bank account, and Profit First for Contractors leverages that behavior and says, you know what? What if we took a look at multiple bank accounts or individual bank accounts and said, okay, instead of having all of our money in one bank account, let's develop separate bank accounts that serve each part of our business.
Expand on that a little bit. How does that work?
So it works the same way that every single one of your listeners operate every single morning when they go to the bathroom. Now, at this point, they might be like, okay, what kind of podcast is this? Where are we going with this? But hang with me for a second. All right. And Jim, I'll pick on you a little bit. Okay. So you go into the bathroom, and I'm assuming that you brushed your teeth this morning. At least I hope you did. Right. Yes. So I'm going to guess most likely what you did, like every other human being does, when we go to brush our teeth, we just grab the tube of toothpaste and we just squeeze and we go. We don't pay attention to the amount of toothpaste that we use. Right. And we go on, we brush our teeth and get along with our day. Then one day it happens. We walk into the bathroom and that tube of toothpaste is empty. So what do you do when the toothpaste is empty?
Well, you put a little bit on, right? I got one of those little squeezy things, right? I got one of those little squeezy things, and it really.
That's right. So I always classify people as sometimes people say, oh, you go get a new tube of toothpaste. No, you do not. You don't get a new tube of toothpaste. You go into a certain types of behavior. I call some people are countertop smashers, right? They take that tube of toothpaste and they smash it on the edge of the countertop, and they get that little bit of toothpaste that's left, and then they squeeze a little bit with their thumbs just to get a little bit more. So you got your countertop smashers. Then you have like what I am an ironer. So I will take the toothbrush and I will iron it out to the top, right? And then we continue that behavior. We get a little bit more. And then some people are what I call rollers. They roll it up from the bottom and they do that same thing. See,
I bought a device that rolls it from the bottom.
Or a device. Right now, I'm so lazy as to sometimes I even always carry a pocket knife with me. So I will slit the side of the toothpaste tube down and I will stick my toothbrush in there and get that last little bit.
That's right. But I'm getting it out. Yeah.
And that behavior, there's actually a name for it. It's a psychological phenomenon. They use it in economics all the time, and it's called Parkinson's law. And what Parkinson's law is, this sounds like a fancy term, but it's called the law of induced demand. And what the law states is that demand increases to meet the supply available. So when we're using the toothpaste tube, when we have a full tube of toothpaste, we just squeeze and go. There's plenty of supply there. But when that supply is limited, our demand for the same amount to accomplish the same thing is limited. It's the same reason why after a road project, and this is where the Parkinson's law comes from, they've done studies on this, is after a road project, after the road is widened, it no longer relieves traffic anymore because traffic just fills up the available space. So it's
always wondered that.
Yeah. So it's called Parkinson's law. You can look it up, or the law of induced demand. So just like we go into the bathroom in the morning and we have a full tube of toothpaste, we squeeze and we go. We don't pay attention to the amount of toothpaste that's actually required to get through the day. And then one day it happens. We run out of toothpaste. And then on that day, we can get by on much less. So that supply that we've been using up is actually very inefficient if we can get by on much less. And two things happen when we encounter that empty tube of toothpaste. You know, we smash it on the countertop, we iron it out, we cut the slide, whatever we do, we push it up with a little bit more. So what we do is we start changing our behavior. So when we run out of supply, we get innovative and we get frugal. So we can get by on less. And if we can get by on less and we can be more innovative, then that's the way we should operate every day. So now let's take this to our business.
Yeah.
When we look at that bank account, that single bank account that has all of that money in it for our business, that's like looking at a full tube of toothpaste. We check the bank account and we say, oh, there's money in there. I'm just going to squeeze and go, and I'm going to pay my bills, and I'm going to get on with life. And then one day that tube of toothpaste or that bank account is empty, and we stop and we say, I got to get more frugal, and I got to innovate because I need some more money coming in, and I can get by on less. If you can innovate in those situations and you can be frugal, then that's the way you should operate your business every single day. That's what the Profit First for Contractors system is set up on. It wants to leverage, not change. It wants to leverage our normal human behavior and it's called bank balance accounting. We want to leverage that to our use. So the way that happens in Profit First for Contractors, instead of seeing one full tube of toothpaste or one bank account with all of the money in it, we separate the money that's available to us in our business in what we call the 5 foundational accounts. The 5 foundational accounts are income. That's just money that comes into the business. And for Profit First for Contractors, it's just a holding account, meaning all the money comes in so we can see how much money we have during any given period of time. Then the bank accounts that follow after the income is the first thing is profit. That's the reason that you are in business. It's the most important aspect of your business. If you're not in business to make a profit, then just close up shop and go work for somebody else. But without profit, your business doesn't survive. So we set up a bank account called profit. Next, when we make a profit in the United States of America, you will pay taxes on it, guaranteed, or you'll go to jail, or you'll have some other problems. So the next bank account that we have to set up for our business, because we're serving our business sequentially. That's one of the core principles of Profit First for Contractors. We want to serve your business sequentially. So we got sales or income that comes into a bank account. Then we have profit. That's the most important reason that we're in business. When we make a profit, then we're going to pay some taxes. So we need to set up a tax account. Now that we have profit and taxes taken care of, we got to take care of the next most important thing, and that is the owner. And many of your listeners out there are owning construction business. They have gone periods of time where they haven't paid themselves.
Many.
And you are the most important employee. I hope that you have some wonderful people working for you, but without you, the business doesn't exist. So after profit, then after tax, we have to take care of the most important employee, and that is the owner. So we create a bank account that protects the owner's money so that they are paid for the work that they do. Now that we've taken care of all that, money's come in to the business through sales. That's our income account. We've set some money aside for profit. We've set some money aside for taxes, and we've set some money aside for the most important employee. Well, the only thing that's left, that 5th bank account, is what we call the operating expense account, or OpEx for short. And that is the key to running a profitable business, besides setting up all the other bank accounts, where when we say, okay, we've got our profit taken care of, we've got our tax taken care of, and me as the owner, I can pay myself. Now, the money that's left over in that operating expense account, if there's not enough money there, that is your business screaming at you to operate differently. That is not your business telling you, hey, go steal from the most important aspect of your business, which is profit. Go steal from your taxes so you can be stressed out in April or file an extension. Or, hey, you know what? You own the business. Don't pay yourself for all of the risk that you put out to create this business. When your operating expenses or account is low and you can't pay your bills, that's your business telling you to operate differently. And just like you do with the tube of toothpaste, when it gets low, don't worry. You have the ability to be frugal and to be innovative. And that's what, in a nutshell, that's what the Profit First for Contractors system is. It is a system to manage your cash flow. Now, there'll be accountants out there, CPAs and bookkeepers out there, and say, Shawn, that is wrong. That is not how you do accounting. 100% agree with them. This is not accounting. This is cash management. So when money comes into your business, you need to account for it. The way that you account for it is with accounting software and with bookkeepers and with CPAs, and you got to fill out those forms and do all of that work. When the money is in the business, you as the owner are responsible for managing the money. The way that you manage the money is through the bank accounts. And then when you spend money or when money leaves the business, you need to account for it again. The way that you account for that is with through your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, and other accounting structures. But a lot of CPAs will say, hey, wait a minute, Shawn, profit first, it's gimmicky. That's not accounting. I'll say, you're right. It's cash management. And this is exactly how every business owner, especially construction business owners, look at their money. And that's the way you have to look at your money if you want to make a profit.
And that exactly, looking at that bank balance at anytime you log in, where are we at? And so I like the idea that you're saying it's not accounting. It's cash flow management or cash management. We started this in our digital marketing agency a couple of months ago. We got introduced to Mike and read the book and started implementing in our business. And that was one of the first things that was kind of different, right? It was, we've always thought about things as the accounting side. The revenue minus expenses equals your profit. And that's just how it's ingrained in our heads. So revenue comes in, we pay expenses, and then whatever's left is ours as the business owner. The thing that really blew my mind in this system and it was the mindset change to profit first. So when that income comes in, and you can kind of detail this out a little more, income comes in, $10,000 comes into the business, right? Someone purchased a roof, $10,000 comes into the business. Instead of buying materials first, paying your crews, paying your subs, paying your salesperson, and then whatever's left out of that, you go, oh, all right, well, I get to take that this month. I get to make my truck payment, right? Instead of doing that, the mindset shift and that cash flow management shift to the money doesn't go to your subs, to the crews, to your salespeople first. The $10,000 check that comes in gets distributed into each of your accounts. And in the first one is the profit, the second one taxes, which you better pay, your owner's account, and then your operating expenses. So now what's in that operating expenses account for everyone listening? Your operating expenses account is where you're able to pay for your materials, your subs, your salespeople's commission, things like that. So think about that in your business. That small shift will make the changes. And that relates back to the analogy with the tube of toothpaste is now let's say you took out, 15% or 20% in those first three accounts, and let's say you have 80% left in that operating expense account. Now you better make sure that you spend that money wisely, right?
Yeah.
Am I getting that right?
So that's the way that the system works is it's based on percentages, so that you don't have to do a detailed calculation every time a check comes in. You have to look at the business globally. We have to look at what's our total revenue, how much do we spend in percentage on cost of goods sold, whether it's a roofer, a general contractor, a custom home builder, another trade contractor, whatever, and what's our expenses overall for the business. So we take a look at that globally and we set some rules or we set some standards. Let's say, for example, that someone's looking at their profit and loss statement. Let's say, a roofing company, and they're going to make a 20% net profit. That's what their CPA said that a specialty contractor, roofing contractor should be making, or those are good. That's for a good, healthy, real healthy roofing business. Okay. So understand what the CPA is talking about. And 20% is 20% net profit before taxes.
Yes.
Some percentage of that 20% is your taxes. So what is that percentage? I don't know. You've got to run the numbers. But let's say that we broke that down and we said for an average roofing company, I don't know, I'm just making up the number. Yep. Let's say that you paid 8% in taxes, and you have to ask yourself, okay, well, 8%, what are we talking about there? 8% of what? 8% of every dollar that comes in. See, that's one of the rules that I've set up for Profit First for contractors is if you spend more than 100% of your income, then you're going to be in trouble. But the problem is the profit and loss statement doesn't show where 100% of the income is spent, meaning at the top line revenue, it shows 100% of our income coming in for that year, shows cost of goods sold and shows expenses. but it doesn't show our taxes. That happens on the balance sheet. So back to our example of a 20% net profit before taxes, if I run the numbers and find out, 8% of every dollar that came in, I had to pay in taxes. Well, that means that my profit after taxes is 12%. That's what I'm going to use to set up my bank account. There's a difference between 20% net profit before taxes on the profit and loss statement and a bank account where I get that. Let's see. I picked a bad number, by the way. So we get 12, or we get $10,000 comes in for our roofing job. 12% of that needs to be set aside in my profit account. So that's $1,200. So I get the deposit check, or I get the $10,000 check, and then $1,200 goes into my profit account, a bank account that it sits there, and I don't touch that money. Then I know, because I've run some numbers, that 8% is most likely what's going to be due on my taxes. Now, my taxes are complicated and it takes a CPA to figure them out. But in general, when I've looked at my business globally, last year, last quarter, whatever, in general, we owe 8% of every dollar that comes in. So that 12% plus the 8%, well, that's the 20% that my CPA is talking about. But now I can understand that because I've got two bank accounts, one that has $1,200 in it, the other that has $800 in it. So that leaves me $8,000, or 80% of my money left to spend on the other things. I've taken care of profit. I've taken care of taxes. Now I need to take care of my salary as the owner of the business. Let's just say in general, that's 10%. Okay. So 10% of what? 10% of that $10,000 that came in. So I'm going to set aside $1,000 into what I call my owner's compensation, or my owner's comp account. Now that $10,000 has come in, now I've got $7,000 left. And that's where I pay all my bills out of: payroll, subs, materials. And if $7,000 isn't enough to do that, then I've priced the job incorrectly, or I'm not working efficiently to do it. And people are saying, well, Shawn, it can't be that simple. That's why the system is so effective, because of its simplicity. Contractors out there need to view the income that comes into their business as 100% of their budget. And when you split up that budget into these four additional bank accounts, again, the income, or the income account, that is always 100%. That's the money that's come in. So we have to split that money up. And in this example, I get a $10,000 check. I get a $25,000 check. I get a $50,000 check. I'm always going to take 12%, stick it in my profit account. I'm going to take 8%, put it in my tax account. I'm going to take 10%, put it in my owner's comp account. And then that 70% that's left, that's where I'm going to pay my bills out of.
That's perfect. And I heard you say something in that explanation, and what it was if that $7,000, if that operating expense does not cover the cost of that job, then you priced the job wrong. You bid that job wrong. You estimated that job wrong. And, in the roofing business, a lot of it is storm restoration. And, the insurance company gives you overhead and profit, 20%, industry standard. How would someone deal with that? I mean, I guess there's going to be a difference on the insurance side and the retail side, but how would someone manage that? You had mentioned kind of the industry standard and in that a little bit also when you were talking about that.
Yeah. So I get into explaining that book. There are no such things as industry standards. Like, you and I both own a construction business, right? If there's such thing as an industry standard, why is it that you're able to have better trucks, better employees, and make a higher margin if there's an industry standard, right? Maybe you figured out how to operate on the 20% that the insurance company, quote unquote, allows. But everybody that does work that does restoration work knows that they should know that it's very, very difficult to operate a construction company on 20% margins or 20% markup. And here's the other thing. I get into this in the book as well. 20% markup is a 16.7% margin. You cannot survive, thrive, and grow a construction business on 16.7%. I promise you, you can when you're starting out, when it's you and you're in an old beat up truck, maybe for a little while, but the math just doesn't work. Now, I don't want to bore your listeners into, but it's in the book, the difference between markup and margin. But you just have to say, hey, I can't operate my business on 20%. I know that is what the insurance companies allow or what they put in there. Yep. But we all know how we go into Xactimate and we find every single possible thing that we can charge for, and we're not surviving on 20%. If you are surviving on 20%, I challenge you. My guess is you're not paying yourself. You have cash flow problems. Now, I'm not saying that you can't run a very successful construction business doing restoration work, but the companies that I've worked for, they know they're getting more than a 20% margin or a 16.7% margin on their work. It's because they know the software, they have the relationships, and they know how to increase their margins. So that gets into the other aspect of when the money runs out, or if there's not enough money, then a couple of things have happened. You have either priced the work incorrectly, or you're not operating efficiently. So you need to do a combination of both of those things to make sure that you're making the margins. But one of the things that I find most construction business owners, not even just roofers, but they waste time pricing work to the wrong clients, meaning your clients never intended to spend that type of money with you, or they don't have that money in the first place, and you spend a lot of time trying to get them or trying to convince them to pay your price. And because you're caught in what's described in the book as the craftsman cycle, you're so desperate for money because you're checking the bank balance. You need that deposit check to make payroll next week. It doesn't matter whether you're making money or not, because payroll's due next week. You've got subs beating down your door for their check and you're 2 weeks late. So we take that job, we drop our price, and that cycle continues and it repeats itself until you can step back and say, you know what? This is how we make money. These type of jobs, these type of clients, we can only work for and do these type of projects with this margin, and the people that are willing to pay this, well, they look like this, and you work for what I call your ideal clients. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do insurance and restoration work. You just need a process that says, hey, you know what? We can't work for everybody, because if we do, we'll go out of business. We just want to work for the ones that we're able to make our margins on. And so we get into that in the book too, about that's what keeps you trapped in the craftsman cycle, is selling the wrong work at the wrong price to the wrong clients. And so one of the most profitable words you can either say or hear in your construction business is the word no. When you tell someone, no, we can't do it for that, it's so hard to run a construction business and make money. I get that. And with that difficulty, listen, I would rather you sit at home, enjoy time with your family, and go out of business that way than to spend the next 5 to 7 years working your butt off to get to the same point. If you're going to work for the wrong clients, then just stay at home and enjoy your family, and then go out and be a really, really great employee for another construction company that has it figured out. But if you're scared to tell people no and turn them away because it's not the right project at the right price, then life's too short for that, man. You got to make money in your construction business. And when you view your money as that money that comes in as 100%, this is all the money I have to spend, and you can view it in these percentages, and you leverage those bank accounts to see that, man, it gives you so much clarity on exactly what you need to do to operate your business profitably.
That's very interesting, because the way that the bank accounts are structured, and when we set it up for our digital marketing agency, that's kind of the first thing that we learned. It was a learning process, right? And we learned where some inefficiencies were, and we were, so in the operating expenses accounts, man, why are we doing that? Why are we, why do we have this tool? Why do we have that tool? Why are we paying for this still? Why are we paying for that? And so what you had said, it's not about just bidding the job higher. There's two parts of it, right? It's the profit that you're making on the job and the expenses that you have for the job. So you really have to take a deep dive into both sides of those. But at the same time, knowing that if you're going to bid a job, don't take a job that you're not going to make profit on.
That's right.
It sounds really simple.
It is.
Sounds
Yeah.
really simple.
It is, but you've got to be able to look at your money and identify those type of projects. But we get so wrapped up, we're so busy paying, or I say stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
We get trapped in that cycles that we never step back, take a little bit of time and identify some of those things. And in fact, for a lot of your listeners, if they want to get the book, one of the stories that I tell in the book is one of my clients, a roofing contractor in just outside of Denver, Colorado. They were trapped doing restoration work and they were chasing that volume. They said they had a great volume and they wanted more volume. But when I broke it down and I said, but you're not making any money. More jobs at this are just going to drive you further and further out of business. And I said, one of the things that you need to do is you need to start charging your clients to put together a roofing proposal. And they said, well, nobody does that in the industry. Right. And I said, and this is what we had talked about before about differentiating yourself. Whenever somebody says nobody else does that, you have found the thing to go all in on, because that's the way that you stand out. When somebody says nobody else does this, then you can know, great, we're the only one that does this. And here's the value that it's going to deliver. Now, people might be pissed off at you, but that's just because they're not educated. When you start to become known as the only person that does this level of service, then people will line up to pay for that service specifically because you're the only one that's doing it. And it takes it takes some confidence. It takes some salesmanship. Yeah. It takes some training. And I love being sold by a properly trained salesperson, not somebody that is manipulative, and that is just trying to sell me on something, but someone that so believes in their product and service, they know how to get me to emotionally engage with it. And you have to understand that your clients, this is how they buy everything else. They buy based on emotion, right? And so I want to set the emotion to say, if you don't hire us and you don't pay this premium service, you're going to get an inferior product and an inferior service. And you don't want that. And there are roofers out there right now that have that as part of their ethos. They want to run a different construction company, but they think they have to be like everybody else. And I'm telling you, this is the permission that you need to be different. Change your industry, change your local market, and be that roofer that no one has ever heard of before, offering that level of service. And I promise you, you'll be able to charge what you need to run a healthy construction company. And you can say, forget industry standards. They don't exist. If you want to believe in industry standards, here's the only industry standard that you can trust. Most construction companies go out of business in the first 3 to 5 years, and the ones that do stay in business never make a profit. That is an industry standard. I want to change that with Profit First for contractors, and I can do that if construction business owners get on board to say, you know what, we're different. We have every right, just like any other professional service company, to charge what we need to charge in order to make a profit. Now, if you are trying to make exorbitant profits and exorbitant margins, guess what? Competition's going to eat you up. Let's say that you want to make 30% margins or whatever. That's great, but the industry might keep you limited to 2022 because someone else is going to come along and say, you know what? We can run a healthy business on 20% margins. You're going to lose that work. So when there are huge margins, that usually lasts for a very short period of time because people come in and they find better ways to innovate and be frugal. And they say, you know what? We can be healthy at 20%. Under that, someone is always going to be cheaper than you. And that's why you need to understand how the percentages work, how the numbers work, so that when you're at a 20% margin, 25% margin, whatever it is that you need to make, and someone comes in and says, oh, we're 20% cheaper than you, then you need to be able to tell that client, listen, they're not making any money. They're going to be out of business. When that roof needs to be warrantied, they're not going to be around. These are all of the things. But if someone still wants to go with somebody cheaper, you got to say, okay, I'm going to let you have it. And they'll call you back. And when they call you back for that repair, you'll charge whatever you want because they've had a really bad experience.
I had on episode 4 of our podcast, I talked to the guys from Honest Abe Roofing in Terre Haute, Indiana, and he had an insight like that price is it's not real, right? So it's when value exceeds your price, people buy. So it's in that value that you're providing. So if you can explain the value of your service in that regard, you have to exceed the price with your value so that the customer sees that value. And that really, price is fictional, right? And it's, from the stories in your book and, talking about this contractor in Denver, this roofing contractor in Denver, you're telling me that, okay, because Denver's the second kind of biggest hail claim market in the country. So the second those things fall out of the sky, there's people knocking on doors, right? You're telling me that this company is now charging for an inspection.
Yeah, but that limits a lot of the residential hail roof work that they did. But we just proved, hey, with that level of competition, part of what they were able to sell to their clients is say, hey, when these hailstorms happen, 10,000 new roofing companies pop up. This is the case. Look at our history. We're here, we're local, we're not going anywhere, and we have a process. Part of our process is to get the full claim for this insurance. That's going to take some time.
Yep.
Let everybody else do the door knockers and the storm chasers or whatever. But if you want a quality product from us, then you're going to agree to pay this service fee. And here's what you get for it, right? And people that weren't willing to do it, they said, fine. But because they were telling the truth,
yes.
And it's, establishing that fear again, that emotion, saying, hey, you can go with somebody else and they will be cheaper. They just won't be as good as us. And so they had people lining up, but they also knew that was going to eliminate part of that revenue stream. So we developed a strategy to say, who's a constant without hailstorms. We need to find some income for this roofing business. And so we looked around in the office park they were in, and we said, every single commercial building that you see for miles and miles and miles has a property manager, has a real estate developer that owns it, and they don't have a roofing contractor that is certified in their, in commercial roofing, very specific, different types of roof, certain certifications that are required. And so they went all in saying, okay, let's get in touch with these owners of commercial developments and become their roofing contractor. So their residential storm revenue flip-flopped, right, where that was most of their revenue. And guess who wants to pay to know that their roof is maintained and they've got somebody on call they can do for repairs at any time on a very technical sort of roof? It is property owners of commercial property, right? And so they went all in there. They became known for that. And again, they stood out because they were the only people that were certified in these different types of roof, and the roofing business blew up. And then as hailstorms came back, they were looking for additional ways to add value. They now have a young guy on their staff that is a certified drone pilot. I know it sounds crazy. I'm kind of dating myself here, but that's the value that they add, because also they say, we don't want our guys running around. And I know you got Eagle View and all these other different roof reports, but on these different inspections, they can actually move faster when they bring this guy out. They fly the drone around, they produce that inspection report, and that's the value that somebody is paying for. So when people say no one charges for estimates for residential roofing storm damage stuff, they're just wrong. People just aren't selling the value of it. And that doesn't mean you're going to get every one, but the ones that you do get want to pay your price because they want that level of service and that quality. Listen, every time there's a hailstorm, 10,000 new roofing contractors come into the Denver area or any area for that matter. That's just going to happen. You just need to have that message that sets yourself apart and differentiates yourself, and you'll have all of the work that you could possibly want.
So one of the things I kind of got from that in that conversation was that, so first they're taking their profit first, and they know the profit that they want to make from their business. That's kind of something that you want to make. Then you become efficient in your operating expenses, right? To manage that side of it. But then the another thing that I heard there was that they essentially found a niche where that profit existed. And so they eliminated those clients, those potential customers that didn't have that type of the profit wasn't there in those jobs. So that's something to think about for our listeners too, is maybe finding, if if you had an investment advisor come to you and show you 5 mutual funds, and they said, here's 5 mutual funds. If you put money in this one, you're going to lose 20%. If you put money in this one, you'll lose 15. You put money in this one, you'll lose 10. And if you put money in this one, you lose 5. And you put money in this one, you'll make 20%. Which one do you choose? Right? You're not going to choose the one that loses money. So
Right.
that's something maybe to speak to you, like your customer. What we talk about is our ideal customer avatar, right? Your ideal customer, and you have to find the one that has a return on your time and your money, right? On your investment.
Yeah.
So,
and so what you really get back there when you identify that, you get back your time. So it's not that people say, oh, well, Shawn, it's the roofing industry or fill in the blank with any kind of construction company. In general, in this market, people don't pay for proposals or upfront stuff. And that may be true, but when you eliminate or you pre-qualify your customers, you identify saying, these are the things that make us money. These are the type of projects and the clients that don't make us money. We have to stop saying no. When you stop saying no, you don't do those projects anymore. It gives you your time back.
Yes.
So then you can focus on, why is it that these customers always make us money? And in there, because you're not running around anymore, you have time to develop and you say, how could we expand that market? How could we develop, again, remember the empty tube of toothpaste. We're also limiting our income for a short period of time, saying these are higher margin projects. Just go get more of those. If you, let's say, for example, you lose 100 non-performing type of jobs, you may only have to do 25 or 50 of those of higher performing jobs, and you're at the same money. That's what I always say is, like, if you want to if you want to test the theory out, just double your prices tomorrow, right? And people say, well, I can't afford to do that. I'll lose some clients. I'm like, yeah, but if you doubled your prices, mathematically, you could afford to lose half of your clients and still make the same amount of money. And here's the thing about most construction business owners is you're not going to lose half of your clients, because some of those clients that are buying from you now, they would buy your value if you sold it to them. The only reason they bought your price, because that's all you sold it to them. So you can afford to lose half of your clients and still make the same money, but you're not going to lose half. So you could probably do 60% of the work and still make 20% more money when you get your time back.
Yep.
But it is so scary because you've operated for 5 or 7 years and you got to do this project, and then, like I said, hearing that word no, it is scary. But I'm telling you, you combine the right sales strategy, identifying your ideal customers, and you combine that with profit first and exactly how the numbers work. I'm telling you, it's like the examples in my book. Those contractors, those construction business owners, when they started implementing the system, they thought, okay, this is going to take 2 years to get this thing turned around. And some of them turned around in 6 months because they got focused and they could see for the first time exactly where every dollar was going. And when you see where every dollar is going, man, you have so much better information and you start reacting and changing the way you operate your business. People, I mean, you can check my Instagram account. Always, they're contacting me. I got one just the other day, a client of mine that said their CPA said they had so much money set aside in their tax account that they needed to go invest that money. And this was in less than a year, we completely turned around their business.
That's awesome, man. See, I was so happy to get to have you be able to share your time with us today and break this down. And everyone go out and get Shawn's book, Profit First for Contractors. Shawn, where else can they find you? I know you got a lot of stuff going on. You're speaking all over the place. You have events all over the place. You have your books.
Yeah. So
tell everyone how to find you, talk to you, get a hold of you.
Yep. The book is available on Amazon. It has a Kindle version as well. You can also get the audio version on Audible and on iTunes. You can get all of that stuff through my website for the book, profitfirstcontractor.com, profitfirstcontractor.com. And right there at the top of the page, you'll want to download all the tables and the figures that are in the book. You'll need you'll need that information to, kind of crunch the numbers. And then right there in the middle of the page, give me your email address, and I'm going to send you a free video training series on the 4 core principles of Profit First for Contractors. So that is at profitfirstcontractor.com. You can get the book, you can get the audiobook, all that stuff there. There's links there. And you can also check out my main site, which is ShawnVanDyke.com, ShawnVanDyke, ShawnVanDyke.com. You can apply for a coaching program. You can read my blog post where I'm constantly updating stuff. And then there'll be links to my Instagram. I'm all over Instagram, my YouTube channel. I've got a SoundCloud where I do a bunch of MP3s so you can listen to my annoying Tennessee accent while you're driving around in the truck. But just Google Shawn Van Dyke and you'll find all of my stuff, or Profit First for Contractors, and you'll find all of the stuff there.
Shawn, great. Thanks for joining us today. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
If you would like to generate more sales through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com and get a copy of the book, Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors: How to Triple Your Sales and Turn Your Roofing Website into an Online Lead Generation Machine. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Thanks for listening.